Welcome to session 1. In this first session, we're going to take up the most fascinating and important topic that anyone could ever talk about. And that is, if you're going to learn how to surrender, first you have to know who you are. There's somebody surrendering. There's somebody in there doing something that is bringing about a sense of surrender. I feel that way about any spiritual practices. People come to me and say, I meditate. I don't care about the meditation. I care about who meditates. People say, I do yoga. Who does yoga? Who are you? That's the most important topic you will ever discuss in your entire life. So if we're going to go on a journey that takes us deep, deep into a deep spiritual place, into a deep, beautiful place, which is a place of surrender, we have to start off with who is it that's in there? So the first question I always ask people when I start a class is, hi, are you in there? Are you sure? Hi, you in there? All right. Believe it or not, I've never had anyone say no. Okay? We're all in there. What does that mean? I'm in here. And there are many ways to approach this. Just open up. Let's take a journey. So for example, let's maybe have some pictures, some photographs of different people. And I hold them up, one after the other. Do you see them? See number 2? See number 3? Very good. The pictures changed. Was it the same you who saw all 3 pictures? You say, well, of course it was the same me. Good. We're getting there. All right. So you are not what you look at. You are the one who's looking. It's not hard to understand that, to see that. Some people say, if I walked up to them and said, who are you? Okay. I do this in the Untethered Soul. Who are you? I'm Peter Barry. Right? Really? Right? Your name is who you are. That's a collection of letters. What if somebody gave you a different name? What if you took a spiritual name, right? Shambhala or something like that, all right? All of a sudden, that's who you are? The answer is no. You're the one who's in here who responds to the name Peter Barry. I can do it very quickly with you all. I know most of you have done other courses and have studied this stuff, so I'm not going to go too far, all right? Let's start with the body, because that's the next people say, all right? I'm a 43-year-old woman that's 5'6", et cetera, et cetera. Really, what I want to do, and this may disturb some of you, is I want to start with your hand, okay? If I ask you to look at your hand, you look at your hand. And I say, do you see it? You say, yes, I see my hand. Okay? So you see a hand, and you're seeing the hand. What if, and don't get squeamish on me, the hand got cut off? I know it hurt, but just for a moment, it's gone. Okay? You still there? Are you still there? Do you notice your hand is gone? So it didn't change you one iota. I used to do a thing, and this is terrible, I shouldn't do this on camera, with my classes when I would teach it, especially the early ones in the community college, and I would sit there and say, what would happen if I wanted to prove to you that you are not your body? That your body is just another thing you see. You see it, it happens to be there, so you see it, all right? Let's say you got a wart on your big toe, and you wanted to get it removed. And you came to me and told me you're going to go in tomorrow and get it removed. And so what I have done is arrange the finest doctors from all over the world and the finest arena of a operating room to be pulled together locally where you live. And next thing you know, you're going in and you're talking to, I'm going to go in there with you, and you're talking to me about what you saw yesterday, what movie you saw yesterday. In the meantime, we slide you on a gurney through this hole in the wall. And your head's on this side, the rest of your body's on the other side. And I just tell you that's an experiment we're doing. You don't know that on the other side is this giant operating room with the finest equipment. And just for those of you who like to be very intellectual, even if it's not today, let it be 10 years from now, 20 years from now, it doesn't matter, right? As far as what we're capable of doing. And while I'm talking to you about your movie, they remove your leg. Left leg, left arm, right arm. Is it possible that could happen without you knowing it? If they use proper anesthetic and the finest surgeons in the world? And the answer is, you don't want to know the answer because the answer is yes, all right? That could happen without you having any idea what's going on. So even then, I'm going to ask you, are you your body? Because your body just changed a little bit. You didn't. You're in there, being yourself. How do you feel? I feel great, all right? Then we go a little further. Even start taking out the heart, the lungs, putting your heart and lung machine. They can go pretty far of removing this thing you call your body without you having the slightest idea that it happened. How then can you be your body? Your body just went through the most dramatic changes that could ever possibly happen, and you stayed exactly the same. And if before I reveal to you the dastardly thing I've done, all right, I'm going to be in big trouble, all right? Before I do that, I'm going to say to you, how do you feel? And you're going to say, fine. Are you feeling yourself? Yeah, I feel completely myself. You happy? Yes. You remember your everything? And you will be exactly the same until I remove that curtain. And then your mind will freak. And guess what? You will notice your mind freak. But that's a whole nother discussion, all right? You are in there. If at that point I say, hi, are you in there? You're breathing real fast. Yes, I'm in here. You sure? Yeah, I don't want to be, but I am, all right? So I'm not talking about how you feel or what you see. I'm talking about you who feels and you who sees. And if you're going to realize you are not your body. Look, your body I didn't have to do that operation. Your body didn't look the same when you were 3, 5, 10, 20, 30, and it's not going to look the same when you're 80 or 90, all right? But isn't that you who's looking at it? I always ask that question to people. When you were 10 years old, you ever look in a mirror? Did you see what you see now? No. Was it you looking? Yeah, it was you looking. You've been there the whole time, haven't you? That's the core, the essence of everything we want to talk about. Who are you? Who is that is in there, that is looking out through those eyes and seeing what you're seeing? Because you, just like when I held up the pictures, you were not the picture. You were the one that was looking. So when you look out at the mirror, you are not what you see. It's what we call subject-object. You are the subject, and what you are looking at is the object. There may be many, many different objects outside. We talked the example of I hold up one picture, and another picture, and another picture. Those are objects, different objects, but there's only one subject looking at them. And what you're going to find out throughout this entire course and throughout your entire life is there's only one subject, you, hi, all right? One example I often use to bring this home is you've been invited to have a top secret visit for a government warehouse, and the government has been collecting things inside of it from the beginning of time. The caveat is that you get to go visit it, but there are no lights in this warehouse. It's so top secret that there's never any lights and the lights can't be turned on. It's pitch black, but it's jam-packed with stuff. It's hard to even move around. Because there's no light and you want to be able to experience something, you're given a flashlight. But it's not a broad beam, super, flashlight. It's just a normal little flashlight that's got a beam, of a foot width or so, all right? And so you're given a flashlight and you walk in and you're very excited to see what's in there. And so you turn it on and all of a sudden it freaks you out because what it shines on is like an old stuffed owl. Why would an old stuffed owl be in the warehouse? And you shine at it. What if I take you out now and I ask you, okay, you had your visit, what's in the warehouse? You're going to say an old stuffed owl. Well, I think that's rather narrow-beamed instead of narrow-minded, right? All you saw was the object that was in front of you. So your subject saw one object. I send you back in and say, I don't know. That's not what the other person said was in there. And so you sit there and you shine your flashlight, and it shines on an F-15 plane. It's sitting in there. You say, oh, this is more hidden stuff, right? And I could do the same thing with you. And wherever you go, you're going to see where the flashlight shines. That's what's shining. That's the object. So you, the subject, only experience what it is that's coming into your consciousness. So if you move it from place to place within the warehouse, you're going to see a tiny bit of what's going on. You will not see a lot of what's there. There are billions and billions of objects in this universe. There's only one subject, you. So as you go through your life, what has happened to you is your consciousness, the flashlight of your consciousness, the beam of your consciousness. That's why they call it the light of consciousness. Because like a flashlight, it illumines what it's looking at. Okay? It just illumines it with awareness instead of illumines it with light. But you are not what you're looking at. You are, in this case, the light from the flashlight is not what it's falling on. The light doesn't become an owl. It looks like it does because it circles around it. It gives the circle, it illumines that. The light doesn't become a plane. The light doesn't become scuba diving gear. The light doesn't become a rocking chair. Whatever it falls on, the light illumines that. But the light itself is something totally different. The light is what we call transcendent to what it's falling on. The light is a beam. What it fell upon is a physical object. It is exactly the same with your consciousness. You are the consciousness that happens to be focusing on a given object that's in front of you. There are billions of other objects, you can be sure of that, but that's what you see. So that becomes what comes into your consciousness. The key, if you want to grow spiritually, what we're going to do with this course is, now that you understand you are not what you are seeing, you are the one who's seeing it. You're not the one what you're hearing. You are the one who's hearing it. The question is not what am I hearing, what am I seeing? The question is, what is this light? What is the quality of this light that has the ability to illumine what's taking place? To go a little bit further ahead of myself, right? In spiritual growth, your first step is to realize there's an object you're paying attention to. The second is to realize that this act of attention is what's falling on the object. Right? The object is not special. It's just the object that your attention has to be falling on. And then you're going to realize that you are actually projecting your attention onto the object, just like a light shines out. You stayed inside. You didn't go out there and get on the object. It's hilarious, right? In truth, what you're going to find out is the truth of the matter is you are not looking at that object. This experience of what it's like to be you, wake up. I'm going to give you science now, all right? That object is outside. You are not looking at it outside. That is not what's happening. Right now, you're not looking at me. What is happening is light, rays of light, beams of light, are bouncing off the molecules that make up the body of that object, or my body. They are reflecting back. They are hitting your optical sensory cells, right? Your receptors. They are then being transmuted back through your nerves like a wiring system, and they are rendering in your mind. So you're literally seeing the inside. You're not seeing the outside. So this whole question of what it's like to be me and what it's like to really be alive and live my life, you're living in an illusion. All right? Even science backs that up. So you are looking with your consciousness at a flat screen TV or a flat screen monitor inside, exactly the same as a flat screen monitor. It got its information from California where the ball game is going on. It got transferred through wires, right, through cables, and it then rendered. The outside world is coming in and rendering inside your mind. You are looking at it there. You are not the object you're looking at. It's enough that the object isn't even what you think it is, all right? You are looking at something just exactly the same as the ray of light shines on an object within the warehouse. If you work your way back, the question becomes, how does that happen? How is it that I am able to see what is in front of me? Not that my eyes can pick it up, right? I can't, sometimes people say to me, well, your eyes, we'll go study optical science. No, because once it comes in through the eyes, it gets rendered in the mind. Who are you that is looking at it? There was a great saint from India, great enlightened master named Ramana Maharshi. Some of you may have heard his name. As high as they get, very, very high and highly respected being. His entire spiritual path was to ask the disciples, ask persistently, consistently, every moment, who sees when I see? Who hears when I hear? Who felt when I feel? Who is this that's in there? Self-realization, right, which is Yogananda called all of enlightenment, he called it self-realization, means that you have realized who you are that's in there. So it's not far away from you. It's not something you have to go. I love it when people say to me, I'm looking for myself. What, under the couch? I mean, what do you mean you're looking for yourself? I'm trying to find myself. There is no finding yourself. You are yourself. You who's looking is who you should be paying attention to. Isn't it funny when you look at it that way? So this whole spiritual journey back to the seat of self, right, is not about finding yourself, right? It's not even in a Judeo-Christian sense. Somebody says, do you have a soul? I'm putting this on tape now, I'm in trouble. You don't have a soul. You are the soul. The question is, who are you? So that becomes the essence. Before we can understand surrender, you have to understand who you are. So let's continue going. So we asked about the question that when you were young, you looked out through your eyes and you saw a certain reflection in the mirror. Later in your life, you saw another, right? So now I'm going to ask you. Don't answer. There are no answers to these questions. It's an intuitive question. How old are you? Not how old is your body. How old are you who's looking out through those eyes at your body? If you were in there when you were 10, if you're in there when you're 20, if you're going to be in there on your deathbed noticing that you're dying, and you will be, you understand that? Of what age are you? Like I said, don't answer. Just let it touch you, right? Let it take what it needs to take. Then because you all are very advanced and I love you so much, I'm going to do something very politically incorrect. Okay? I'm going to ask you, if you were sitting there looking in the mirror, you just took a shower, and you're looking in the mirror, and there you see yourself in all your glory, all right? And there you are. You're seeing a male, you see a female, and you're looking at your body. And then all of a sudden, with mystical, magical powers, it changes. Somehow the plumbing changes, the body parts change. And if you were a male, you're looking at a female. And if you were a female, you're looking at a male, all right? Is it still you who's looking? Is it still you, the same consciousness, that looks out through those eyes and goes, oh my God, what happened? Well, oh my God, right? It's the same you. Then what gender are you? Sorry, I'm not trying to create gender identity problems, all right? But obviously you in there who have no body parts can't have a gender. All you can have is awareness that when you look out through the eyes, something you are looking at has a certain form and shape. And that form and shape could be male or female. But how can you have a gender if you don't even have body parts? All right, you're looking at them like if you go back to the example of the operation, obviously people can change their gender with operation. Okay, you will notice that it changed. That's wonderful. I want to know who you are. I want to know how old you are if you've been in it the whole time. I want to know what gender you have, what this thing called gender is. Right? You don't have a race. Right? Your skin is a color. Things may be shaped certain ways and so on, but you are not. You are the one who is looking at that. So the essence of all of this becomes, are you willing to let go of who you thought you were? Because who you thought you were is not who you are. You are the person who's looking at your body. You are the person who's looking at your house. You are the person who's looking at your car. Right? You are the same being. Let's go to something a little lighter. At night, you go to sleep. You dream. All right? You wake up in the morning, you say, I had a dream. I have a very simple question. How do you know? How do you know you had a dream? All right? And if I asked you that question, you get very frustrated with me and flustered, right? But the answer is very simple. You were there. You were there having the dream. Is it the same you who was there having the dream as the you who looks out through these eyes and sees this world? The answer is obviously, otherwise you wouldn't know each other. I had to introduce you. There's only one being in there. What about, really a fun one, what if you go to sleep and you wake up and you turn to your partner or somebody and you sit there and say, wow, I dreamt so sleep, I went so deep, I didn't dream at all last night. Have you ever said that? I didn't dream at all last night? Now I'm going to ask you a question. How do you know? Whoa. Well, that's pretty neat, isn't it? Okay. Why? Because you were there. You were there. You're there watching the dream. You're there noticing there's no dream. In a very deep book, the Yoga Sutras Patanjali's, which is very deep. I don't have people read it. It's a very deep book. But he says something amazing. It's like the core of yoga. He says that when you go to sleep and you go so deep that there are no dreams, it is not that you are not conscious. You are conscious of nothing. And eventually, if you spend enough time with this, and I want you to, you're going to find out that you're always conscious. What about if I'm knocked unconscious? Well, in the comic books, when you're knocked unconscious, you see Tweety Bird. People get knocked unconscious. They get put on machines if they're in comas, and they come back and tell you everything they saw and everything they experienced. People have near-death experiences, and they leave their bodies, all right? I would not call that not being conscious. So medically, what we call conscious is that the functions of the body are carrying out what the functions of the body do, right? The brain waves and this and the other thing. The concept of whether you in there are conscious, that's not discussable. You're always conscious. You've been conscious from the beginning. You're conscious every single second, right? You're aware of everything that's going on. So the question comes down to, who are you? Who is that entity, that consciousness that is inside? And what you get to, and I want you to get there, the courses will help you get there. They will. You will feel much more centered. That's what we call being centered. Not centered in what you're looking at, centered in who are you that's looking. And you're going to find, well, another thing we're going to discuss in this course is why you don't feel that. Why are you not centered all the time? Why do you have to work on being centered? All right? If I'm conscious, why are they telling me I have to work on being conscious? Doesn't make any sense. It will. It will all make tremendous sense to you. So you come back to the understanding that you are in there. You have always been in there. The question becomes, when the body dies, will you be in there? That's a very interesting question. Obviously, I am not going to answer that for you, but I'll tell you who will answer that eventually, you. All right? Because you are going to have the experience, believe it or not, free of charge, of finding out whether you're there after the body dies. All right? That's why I don't understand why people have so much trouble with death. It's got to be the most exciting thing in the whole world. I call it a once-in-a-lifetime experience. All right? That's what you're going to have at the time of death. And at the time of death, you're not going to be there, and I always tell people, I ask people why they have trouble with death. Either you're not there. That's not a problem. It's not like, oh my God, I'm not here. I don't like it. No, you're not there, all right? The light bulb got turned off. Or you are going to be there, and you're going to find out what it's like to be there and explore a whole nother universe where you don't have a body, and I don't even want to talk about it, right? I don't want to have beliefs or concepts or views about the whole thing. I just think it's very exciting, and I don't understand why people have so much trouble. The reason they have trouble is because they identify with their bodies. They identify with their car. They identify with their house, right? So they're projecting their sense of self onto things that are not their selves. And when you do that, you're afraid it'll be taken away. As we work our way through this course, that's not what you'll identify. You'll identify yourself with yourself. It's not an arguable point that you're in there. What's arguable is what you're doing in there, which leads us to the next step. Is what we're going to do with this course. What's it like in there? Now that you know you're in there, let's have an honest question. What is it like in there? Again, I've asked a lot of people that question. I've taught a lot of classes, right? And you get this serious look because the answer is, it's not always so much fun being in here, is it? I mean, sometimes it's okay, but it's not always so much fun being in here. In fact, sometimes it's tough being in here, isn't it? Ever been tough being in there? Come on, be honest, all right? What's that all about, all right? I'm in here, I exist, right? Was it Descartes or someone, the philosopher said, I think, therefore I exist? No, I notice my thoughts, therefore I exist, all right? It's like, if anybody who meditates knows, anyone who meditates knows it is not true, I think, therefore I am, right? Because I've been there when there are no thoughts. And I've been there watching my thoughts and thinking they're a problem. Who am I? The thoughts are not who I am, they're what I'm watching. And we'll have a whole session on that. We're going to spend time with that. But the concept that we're dealing with is that you are in there. That is what your life is the time you spend in here having the experience of what it's like to be in here. And it is not always pleasant in here. And this is where we get down to why we're taking this course. Because I'm telling you, and I know I'm challenging you. I teach that way, I'm sorry to tell you. I believe in shocking, challenging, that gets you interested, right? It can always be nice in there. In fact, I'm challenging you. Take the nicest it's ever been in there. Really. You held your first child. It's your wedding day, your first kiss, right? Just you won the lottery or whatever it is, all right? The nicest it's ever been in there. Multiply it times 1,000,000 and have it always be that way, except that it keeps getting higher. That is what is capable of going on in there. They will not teach you that. You understand that? That's not something they understand, all right? It is the truth. It is really, really beautiful in there, except that something's making it not be. It's just like you walk into a house that's just garbage and banana peels and pizza crusts all over the place, right? It happens to be a beautiful house. It wasn't taken care of. It can be a beautiful house. There just needs to be some work done. It is exactly the same, which is why we're teaching and taking this course. We're all on the same page. Everybody wants the same thing. I'd like it to be nice in here. Excuse me, sir. I would like it to be nice in here. All right? People do all kinds of things trying to make it nice in there. They do drugs. They drink. They run off and have all kinds of exciting experiences they try to have, all for the same reason. I want it to be nice in here. I'm in here. I want it to be nice in here. So the question is not, and I'm not here to teach you how to make it be nice in there. I'm not. All right? I'm here to ask you, why is it not nice in there? Because I'm telling you, if you find out why it's not nice in there and you get rid of that, you're going to find it's really nice in there. So I'm not into the game of it's not nice in here. Let me find things and put it on top of the not nice that make it feel a little bit nicer, which is what everybody's doing, all right? Trying to find things so that when they happen, they make me feel better. I want to know why you don't feel good. I want to know ever why it is not nice in there. So the starting position, as we've already done it, is to come back to understand I'm in here. I can't say whether I'm nice or not. I'm just in here. I'm the consciousness that's aware of nice and not nice, okay? I'm in here. So now the question becomes, when I experience what it's like to be in here, sometimes it's nice, sometimes it's not. Okay, we're getting to the core of where we're going with this course. So the question is, what is it that you're experiencing that sometimes makes it feel nice, and sometimes makes it feel like hell, makes it feel really not nice? And there's only three things you experience in there. You experience the outside world that is coming in through your senses, correct? There's a whole world out there, isn't there? All right? And it comes in, it leaks, all right? It doesn't all come in. Only the part in front of you comes in. Believe me, there's much more, all right? But what's in front of you comes in through your eyes, your ears, your nose, your taste, your touch. It comes in through your senses, all right? And then when it comes in, either it's a nice experience or it's not a nice experience. So that's one thing that we have to deal with, that my experience of being in here involves I'm conscious, and what am I conscious of? All right? I am conscious of the fact that the outside world comes in and I experience it. But that's not all you experience. Well, sometimes you wish it was. All right? You also have these things, what did they call them? Oh yes, thoughts that are in here that are not coming in through your senses, right or wrong. Anybody got any of those? Right? So you're in there, sitting there saying, well, I don't know if I like this. I don't even understand why she did this. Right? Where's she going? She said she was going to come over here. What is that? This person's walking away towards somebody else. That's what's coming in through your senses. This other thing's not coming in through your senses. Oh my God, I thought she liked me. Why is she going to him? Oh my God, this feels terrible. Or, oh look, she's going to tell him that she wants to be with me. Oh, I'm so excited. What is that? That's me. That is not you. We went through that, all right? I put you through a lot proving to you that's not you. Those are thoughts. You are noticing those thoughts. That is another thing you notice in there. You notice the world coming in from outside, and you notice the thoughts that are generated and created inside. Where do they come from? We're going to discuss that at a length that you will never have another question for the rest of your life, what's going on in there, all right? There'll be entire sessions on that. But for right now, all I want to say is that there's three things that you experience being in there. One is the outside world comes in. Two is your mind creates thoughts, doesn't it? Will you experience those? Is that all that goes on? The world comes in and your mind talks about it, right? No, there's these other things. What are they called? Feelings. There's these feelings that come up all of a sudden, right? I feel scared, right? Yes, your mind can say I feel scared. If your mind said I feel scared and you didn't feel scared, who cares? Right? It's the fact that you actually feel scared, right? It's called a feeling. You don't call a thought a feeling, right? Okay? Unless you're psychic, right? I felt he was coming, right? But otherwise you say, right? I think he's going to come. It's a thinking, right? But you said I felt scared, right? I felt love. I felt love more than I ever felt before. How do you like that? When the feeling of love comes up inside, boy, you like that, don't you? When the feeling of fear and insecurity and self-consciousness and embarrassment and guilt come up inside, no, I don't like that. That's not nice, all right? So we've come a long way here just in this first session. We've proven you're in there. You know you're in there. Hi. Just keep, anytime you get lost, stand in front of the mirror and say, hi, are you in there? Okay, and wave at yourself and realize, yep, I see somebody waving. Who am I that sees that? It's called centering back on your seat of awareness. Now the question becomes, what are you aware of? I'm aware of the fact that there is a world out there that is coming in. I'm aware of the fact that the mind is creating thoughts ad nauseum. There they go. All these thoughts are being created. And I'm aware that my heart, That's where your emotions come from. My heart is emoting. It is generating emotions. And they're like bubbles that come up and hit me, okay? And I feel them and I see them. They're not my thoughts. My thoughts can talk about the emotions, right? Sometimes I have an emotion, it comes up, I'm feeling it, and my mind says, I wonder why I'm feeling that, doesn't it? Is it because she did this? No, it couldn't be that. Here you are thinking about an emotion. Isn't that neat? All right? They are completely different things. All right? Those are the arena in which your consciousness plays the game of life. They are the outside world coming in. They are the thoughts being generated by the mind, and they're the emotions that are being created by the heart. You sitting in there, I will let the cat out of the bag right away, don't stand a chance. Why? Because those three things are in a conspiracy against you. What is going on in the outside world almost always matches what's going on in your thoughts, which will generally be what your emotions are about. It's very rare, right, that your mind will be saying, I don't like him, and your heart's going, ooh, ooh, and you're feeling all this love, right or wrong, all right? They line up. You see somebody, your mind says, is that Fred? I don't want to see Fred. She'll get scared. I'm not comfortable. No, we had a fight last time, right? All of a sudden, the outside that came in matches the thoughts that are going on, and the emotions go right along, right? And you're in there, oh, like you don't stand a chance. You get sucked into that. And that's what happens. That's what it's like living in there. If I were to honestly ask you, are you in there? Yes. And then ask you what's like living in there, you'd go, oh, I get lost a lot. It's like, wow, it's a struggle. How do you like that? Buddha said, all of life is suffering. He wasn't negative. Is that nowadays we're all into positive thinking. Buddha, boy, what's wrong with him? He's supposed to be positive, man. What kind of thing is first noble truth that? Guess what? All life is suffering. If you're rich, poor, sick, healthy, young, old, it doesn't matter, all right? There are moments that are not suffering. But boy, the vast majority of what's going on is the world is coming in, the thoughts are being stimulated, the emotions are following or leading, you understand that? Whatever it is, they work in different sequence, but you're in there struggling. You're in there trying to be okay. That's what it boils down to. I'm trying to be okay. You will at some point realize that's all you've done your entire life is try to be okay. That's why you cried when you were little. Mommy, mommy. Why? You weren't okay. It wasn't okay in there. And I want mommy to come so I'd be okay. That's why you wanted a certain toy. You thought it'd make you okay, right? That's why you wanted to marry this person. That's why you wanted to go to Europe on a vacation. That's why you want Hawaii. Everyone wants to go to Hawaii. Why? It'll make me okay. Go visit the Hawaiians, all right? All right? You just get to the point where you realize all you're doing in there is trying to be okay. And we're going to talk about that at length. There's only three stimuli that are coming into you: the outside world, the thoughts created by your mind, and the emotions. And what we tend to do as humans is get lost in those. And what we mean by trying to be okay is make the emotions okay. There are nice ones, there are not nice ones. Which ones you want? I want the nice ones, and I don't want the not nice ones. Well, that's a struggle. You understand that? So that's what I'm struggling with. Thoughts. I want my thoughts to be nice, positive, uplifting, beautiful, right? And so on, right? Well, there are negative thoughts. There are thoughts that don't feel so good. So I have to struggle with, even if you don't work with yourself, even if you've never meditated a day in your life, you are struggling to try and get your thoughts to say nice things, all right? And then there's this outside world that sometimes it's a certain way. My thoughts are nice, my emotions are nice. Most of the time, it's another way, or I'm afraid it's going to be another way, and then the thoughts are not nice and the emotions are not nice. So I am now in charge of controlling these three things that I just talked about. The world that's coming in, the thoughts that are being created, and the emotions that are coming up. All right? And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to get into all three of those aspects of what you're experiencing, those aspects of your life, and talk about what are they, where do they come from, do you have control over them, why do some of them make you feel good and others make you feel bad. At every level, we're going to go into great detail until you realize that what really matters is not the thoughts, not the emotions, and not the world that's coming in, but you who's experiencing them. This is a spiritual course. That's what we're all working for, is to raise ourselves, whether you call it personal growth or spiritual growth, it doesn't matter, it's the same thing, right? What you're going to find out by the end of this course, and I know you already know it, is the only thing that's really high. The world keeps changing. The thoughts keep changing. They go yin and yang, up and down. The emotions keep changing. You who's in there, the one who's seeing all this, is the most beautiful thing in the whole universe. And if you ever find your way back to that center, you're going to find the most beautiful thing. This is what Christ taught you, what Buddha taught you, what all the great masters have taught through time and space of every tradition, which is the kingdom is within you. You are a very great being. But first, we have to free you. That's why I wrote The Untethered Soul. We have to untether you, free you from the bondage that has happened of being tied to these things that are coming in that you're experiencing. You're being lost in the experience, whereas you can center back in the experiencer. So, yes, it's true that the world coming in, the mind creating thoughts, and the emotion, the heart creating emotions, sometimes is pleasant and a lot of times it's not so pleasant. What you're going to find out when it's said and done, the really pleasant thing in there is you. That when you can pull back behind the experience of how the world is affecting you, how the thoughts are affecting you, how the emotions are affecting you, what's left is you. And it turns out that you are the most beautiful thing that ever walked the face of the earth. And that's what nobody knows, right? That's the big secret, right? That the true secret is that the nature of your being is beautiful. We're going to talk about the nature of the world. It changes, you know it. Every moment in front of you changes. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the nature of the mind. It changes all the time. And we'll talk about the nature of the emotions. You know they change. You don't. We've established that you are the persistent, consistent being that is unconditional. You are always there. You're the one who experiences these different things. What is your nature? What is it like to sit back and be conscious of being conscious? That's what meditation is. That's what all spirituality is that you actually are not being distracted by any of these three things, the world, the mind, the thoughts, and the emotions. So your consciousness is not being pulled out to those. The consciousness has returned to the source. It's like the flashlight we talked about that's shining on the objects in the warehouse. Instead of looking at the object, imagine if it looked at the light itself and it realized, I am light. That's what's being told to you. You are the consciousness. When you pull back to that consciousness, it's true beauty. It's the most beautiful thing you ever experienced. I remember my journey back to that, right? Back in the 70s, in my 20s, right? First, my awakening happened. My first awakening, which was not earth-shattering, was that all of a sudden, and I can't explain the reason, again, Master's grace, God's grace, right? I noticed the voice talking inside my head. Instead of my being there, being the voice, I remember I was sitting on a couch with a friend of mine, and we were talking, just a leisurely conversation, and all of a sudden there was nothing to say, and it got quiet. And I call it one of those moments of uncomfortable silence that we even have with our best friends, all right? It's just sort of like you're not comfortable just sitting there, and Mickey certainly was not comfortable just sitting there. And so the mind started. What can I talk about? How's the weather? Did you see what happened yesterday? Blah, blah, blah. And he kept trying to come up with things to say to break the awkward silence. And for some reason, that time, no other time in my life, that time, instead of being in there, being neurotic, trying to, yes, I got to figure out what to say, I'm so uncomfortable, I noticed that my mind was trying to figure out things to say. All right? I became the witness. I was just naturally noticing what I guess I always noticed, or I wouldn't know what was going on, but I wasn't separate from it. So it was just a natural separation. And the more I noticed it, the more it looked absurd. What are you doing there? You're sitting here on a couch with a friend. What difference does it make, right? And this thing kept being uncomfortable. And that's when you see the conspiracy we talked about. The heart was uncomfortable, and therefore the mind was trying to solve it by thinking of things to say. And I'm sitting there watching it. So that was my first awakening of an experience of sitting behind it all, behind the world, behind the emotions, behind the thoughts, and just noticing. And I was okay. He wasn't okay. He wasn't okay, the one I was watching, but I was okay with him not being okay. And the truth is, because I took that seat, it just kept going further back, right? And I remember I was sitting with a friend of mine, Ronnie, all right? And what I ended up saying to him by watching this, instead of asking about the weather or what happened politically or whatever it was, you want to get something to eat, I said, have you ever noticed a voice talking inside your head? And he'd never thought about such things. And he just sat there and went, what? And then I saw a light go on in his eyes, right? Like, wow, it was so neat to see. He said, yeah, mine never stops talking. I said, neither does mine. All right? And we started talking about the absurdity of that voice inside the head. And his life changed and my life changed from that moment forward. That was literally a spiritual awakening. Is that ridiculous? All right? Just the simplest thing in the world, right? And the other, when I really realized, that was when I realized you don't have to be the mess. That was like the first step, what I call the non-negative, right? That yes, there's a mess in there. I'm just watching it. It's like watching a bad movie. You know, it doesn't bother me. It's just a movie, okay? Right? I'm watching someone have a problem. I'm not having the problem. I'm not having a problem with having a problem. I'm just watching this. Then my next major awakening, which again shows the nature of what we're talking about. What is the nature of who's back there? What is your nature? Was some months later, I started meditating, and I went out on a camping trip to the Ocala National Forest, and I decided to really try to meditate, to really focus down and meditate on this. And I tell the story in the surrender experiment. I'll give you a shortened version, that I just sat down and I was watching my breath, doing Zen-style meditation, and I went fairly deep. The mind stopped. I had a deeper experience than I'd ever had before. It got quiet in there, and that's nice. That's not just non-negative. That's a very nice experience. It got quiet. But then it started talking again, and you know what the first thing it said was? Wow, that was nice. I guess this is meditation. I warned you, anything it says is not you, right? And for whatever reason, I was wise enough at that time to look at that, and something inside of me said, I want to go back. I don't want to get up. I don't want to go down there. I don't want to say that was a nice meditation. I want more. And so I just focused much deeper, watching the breath, focusing on it, and letting it bring me back away from that voice. And I went even deeper. And this happened 2 or 3 times, and I went very deep, very, very deep. And it became so deep that I wasn't there. That's all I can say. Right? It's like you're there, but not the way you ever were before. Right? It's like you're not who you were. There's just this sense of being. And I tell the story in the book. Literally what happened to me was at that point, my legs hurt. I was sitting in a lotus. I came back down and I was going to get up. And a voice way back behind me, booming voice, I'll never forget it, said, do you or do you not want to know what's beyond you? Do you or do you not want to know what's beyond you? And it just caught all of my inspiration and attention, and I just didn't even answer. I just focused back down, no matter how painful it was, whatever, back down to watching the breath, and went way deeper. It happened a couple of times, and ultimately, by the time I came back, that was my first true experience in going beyond the personal. It was so beautiful. There was just peace and ecstasy. It was just the most beautiful place. There is no place that I'd ever been in my entire life for even a second that was as beautiful as what was going on. And I just laid there in it for a prolonged period of time, and that stayed with me for weeks afterwards. It was so profound and so deep that I just didn't want to come back. And so the voice inside my head couldn't bring me back. Nothing happened in the world bothered me. I still went to class. I was in graduate school for my doctorate in economics, went to class, didn't bring me back. It was so deep, it had gone so deep that nothing could touch where it was. Like I said, I explained the state much more thoroughly in the surrender experiment. The key is, why am I sharing this? You who's back there watching this mess, is watching all the noise that's going on in front of you, are really beautiful. It's what Christ meant when he said, the peace that passes all understanding. It's what all of spirituality is about. The deep foundation of all the major traditions. This is where Buddha went, of course, way past that. There's no end to how deep you can go. So that's the purpose of this course, is to learn how to let go of what is coming in from the world, what is coming in through your mind, what is coming in through your emotions in a totally natural way. I started doing it through deep, forceful Zen meditation. I found out by the time I went through my growth that the highest path is learning to gradually, day by day, in your normal circumstances of life, let go of what is distracting your consciousness, and that it eventually will attain a seat that's permanent. It's called becoming established in the seat of self, and you will start to experience the most beautiful beauty you've ever had, and it will never stop. Just every moment of your life, there's just this beautiful flow of energy that's flowing inside of you. So that is the purpose of what we're doing in this class. But we're going to do it in a very scientific, very analytical, very step-by-step way, which is to sit there and say, if the reason I can't stay in that state is because what is coming in from the outside world is distracting me so thoroughly that my consciousness is identifying with that. If what is coming in through my personal mind of what I like and what I don't like is so strong that I get lost in that, if what is coming up from my emotions is so powerful that I have to devote my life to them to trying to be okay, then I can't know who I am. So what I want to do is walk us through this process of understanding what's coming in through the outside world, understanding what's happening in your mind, understanding what's happening in your emotions, so you become comfortable with these things and don't have to devote your life to what is actually lower. It's your lower self. So we call it your lower self. And you can learn to establish yourself in the deepest part of your being and then live your life. It's not that you don't live your life. So these are the types of things we're going to talk about in this course. And I'm looking forward to meeting you on the other side in session 2.